Welcome, Sandman Nation. I'm Nate. He's Brandon. We are the St. Louis Syndicate, and we're here to talk this week about all of our college football, pro picks, and, of course, your favorite, the Survivor. We'll catch the Survivor at the end. We had a great week in Survivor, Brandon.
Oh, hell yeah. Arizona made it through. I think all of the ones that we highlighted made it through. It was a good week for everybody in Survivor, I think.
It was in general, right? Nothing like the disaster last week that we faced with last year with Cincinnati just absolutely laying the egg and killing everybody. Cincinnati came out, won their game. So anybody that took that risk and put it on Cincinnati, that was kind of interesting and fun to take a look at. But we'll cover those Survivor picks later. Let's start off with college football. We had a big one right here. Mizzou Tigers took down those Kansas Jayhawks. Play Mr. Brightside. That's a big deal here in the SEC. It's a bigger deal in the state of Missouri. And while Kansas will tell you it's not that big of a deal, I would beg to differ. Now, we look like crap coming out at the beginning, down 21-6. What were you thinking at halftime?
That was very squirrely. It's hard to say whether it was because I was drinking or because I was sitting outside and the weather was nice, but I was very calm about it. I was sitting there with three other people who were chewing through their forearms, but I felt real comfortable about it. I thought that they were playing well, and they had just made some mistakes, and that if they just stuck with it, they'd chip away. And it turns out not only did they chip away, they ended up covering for me, which helps me with my locks that I gave everybody on Sandman last Monday. Not to mention that you could have paired him with Illinois and had a little Midwestern parlay with them handling Duke. So it turned out everybody in the bi-state area took care of business.
Yeah, hey, here at St. Louis and the St. Louis Syndicate, we're happy, right? Our bi-state area followers are really happy here with the Illini and the Tigers covering. So college football, man, it was great. It's been beautiful here in the Midwest. I don't know about where you guys are all located, but I can tell you that I sat outside on my back patio and watched football for 2 days. I think my wife, by the end of the second day, had enough of being outside and enough of the TV being on football only. But she was a good sport. We had a lot of fun with it, and just overall a good time. Though Saturday was a little tough on my side of the cage. Talking about the Sandman plays, Brandon, I had 2 entries in Guts this year. And Guts is probably, at least historically, has been one of my most favorite contests Sandman offers. I've told Bill this. I love it. It's one of my favorites. And I'm no longer allowed to play this year because I lost both of my entries with 2 crappy entries. I picked the Florida Gators, who were supposed to win by 17 and were upset. And I picked Liberty, who were supposed to win by 5.5. Now, strategically, Liberty was a little riskier. I understand that. But I thought that I played the Gators thinking, oh, I'm going to have 17 points. I'm going to be, further down the standing list. No. I would take that now because then I would get to play this week, Brandon. I don't get to play this week, Brandon, because Florida laid an egg. Screw Florida. Had it with Florida. That's it. I don't like Florida.
What a way to get jobbed. USF, back-to-back weeks.
Oh.
Like,
unbelievable.
Boise State shows up not ready to play, runs them out of the building, and then they go to the Swamp and catch them flat-footed. Crazy. And funny enough, they're sending them cross-state to Miami this week, and they're still not getting any respect. They're 17.5-point underdogs. So that'll be very interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, I'm with you. Guts, I'm not as good on the college side as I am on the NFL side, so it's more tricky for me. But I just love the structure of it. Oh. It's such a unique and perfect pool to play in, and I got lucky. I went Tulane. I thought I was safe. I took them in Ben Harper as well. They didn't cover. They almost gave up the tie, and luckily we survived and I got through. But I'm in the same boat with you with Liberty. I'm always looking for those between 4 and 9-point favorites to go, I'm going to take on some points, but not take on too many.
Yeah.
You don't want to get up in those double digits if you don't have to. But who would have thought that Liberty, when you start off and you go, that's the team that's in that non-Power 5 conference that may just run the table, and
Yeah.
then it's very much like Boise,
Oh, yeah.
that like you go, hey, these are the teams that are going to be undefeated and be arguing that like, hey, we should be in the playoff, and then they just lay an egg the first game is very unfortunate for college football as a whole,
Yeah.
and really unfortunate for your fun on a Saturday.
Yeah. Well, the good news is I'm still alive on Sundays. I'm doing okay in the Ben Harper. I was able to
Doing
parlay some
great.
money line parlays together there. So we're hey, there's wins, there's losses. If you've been around Sandman long enough, you know that you're gonna have plenty of games to play in. So hopefully I'll make it all the way through the Super Bowl on that one, and be executing in the championship weeks, chasing some money down. But it sure as hell ain't gonna be in guts. So now I gotta live vicariously through you, Brandon. Who are we picking this week? And Guts, do we have a
I'm going to
pick?
try to keep it strong. I have some leans.
Leans.
Like I'm very interested. Clemson really intrigues me,
Okay.
right? Because it's a very short line
Yeah.
and they've been playing not as well as they should be playing.
Right.
But we all believe that theoretically they should snap into focus at some point. So why not against Georgia Tech? Now you got to be on the road, yada yada. But it's a nice short line that you can kind of stare at for a while. Now, in a perfect world, not to rub salt in the wound, but like Liberty's sitting there at -6.5. So I go, well, maybe it's the week for them. Um,
Man. They
and
can't do it
also,
twice in a row, can they?
right. Well, boy, would that be a way to get jobbed? Is you think you're looking at them going, maybe they'll go undefeated, and then they start 0-2. That seems impossible. But those are the two that stand out to me. That like, even though we're talking about them being on the road and that not being my favorite way to
Yeah.
deal with this, early in the week, before we see any of the lines move around, those are the two that just off the strength of the teams leads me to go, maybe we want to get on one of these two.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I got no dog in the fight, but if I had to pick a team right now to throw some coin on, maybe a little bit more than pizza money, I'd probably pick Notre Dame at 6.5 over A&M. Don't get me wrong, I like Big 12. I like A&M overall where they stand for the season, but I expect Notre Dame to come back and take care of business, and I think they're going to start with A&M. Last year it was kind of a stalwart point for them, so I think that this year they're going to come back and take care of business at the 6.5.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm mostly on the same spot there. And the other one that jumps out from a picks perspective is Georgia. I try to stay away from those 3.5 and 7.5 lines, but it seems like Georgia hasn't. They're still probably being undervalued against what the true ability of the team is, and so getting Georgia in general less than a touchdown feels quite nice. So that one's probably going to be part of the card on Saturday.
Perfect. And one final question for you before we jump over to our NFL. Carson Beck, right? You're talking about Georgia. We just talked about Miami. How do you think he's stacking up? I mean, is he born again here, for lack of a better term? Do we see him really driving the Hurricanes? They were my
It's
consensus out of the top 10 pick, and he showed
yeah,
pretty well in week 1.
he really did, and I'm torn because he is one of those guys that even at Georgia last year and previous when they were having success, and you just looked at him the way that he played and went like, I they're kind of winning in spite of him. Like
Yeah.
he's fine, he's sufficient, but he's not elevating the team. In that Miami game, it seemed like he was back to elevating the team.
Yeah.
So I I'm going to be very. I mean, this is a fun way to challenge him. Is take this team that just has gotten 2 underdog wins and send them down there and go, you look like you had some fun. Let's see how this works. So, you know, if they can cover the 17 and a half, that'll get me much closer being a believer. But right now, I'm still just kind of on the fence going, yeah, maybe it sticks, maybe it doesn't. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm along those lines as well. Power rankings. NFL.
Yes.
NFL was fun this week, man. It was great to have football back. Week 1, from Thursday, the game that kicked it all off with my Cowboys actually kind of showing up a little bit.
Yeah.
To the Kansas City Chiefs and Chargers playing down in Brazil, kicking it off internationally, and just a great week 1 wrapped up towards the end there. That Sunday night matchup with Buffalo and Baltimore. I mean, potentially an AFC Championship rematch. I mean, technically, those are 2 of the best teams in the league, and man, just a slugfest. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And Monday night ended up being exciting.
Oh yeah,
We got all good primetime games. It was interesting, and the games stayed, relatively close. I mean, the Chiefs were being beat the entire game, but the offenses were moving the ball. So yeah, I thought that the matchups that they got into the showcase games really came through for everybody this week.
and all those teams happen to be in our top 5. So
Absolutely.
we've got our top 5 lined up here very nicely, with Buffalo at the top and Philadelphia and the 2 hole. And I think both of us would argue that very easily could the Ravens be 1 or 2, only
Yeah.
because right now that the Ravens are sitting with the loss, um, a tough loss at that, because it seems like they controlled a lot of that game. But ultimately sitting in the 3 hole. Kansas City, yes, they lost. They're still a champs in our book. We are a little bit of Missouri homers there, but until they show us consistency of being handled, they're probably going to hang out in the top 5 a little bit. I expect to bounce back this week. That being said, the Chiefs could start the season 0-2.
Very simply, like this is another real matchup to start the season. We're not getting, um, you know, New Orleans or Tennessee or those sorts of matchups where you get to wade into the waters. You want to start with the Chargers in another hemisphere and then come back to do your Super Bowl matchup. This is real simple where you could be 0-2, and even with a good showing, they could lose by a couple of points against Philly and go, we're still moving the direction that we need to move, but be 0-2. The downside will be the 2 losses this early in the season probably stops you from being able to get the 1 seed, which makes the playoffs a lot harder.
It's a big deal for Kansas City because having to go through Arrowhead is difficult. Um,
Yes.
I would agree with that. I also think, and I should have had our crack research analysis. Oh wait, we don't have one. Eric, Brandon and I want a crack research analysis. Um, our crack research analysis that didn't happen. I believe there's some statistics that say teams that go 0-2 have like a very, very minuscule percentage chance of actually getting to the Super Bowl. It
Yeah,
can
that's
happen,
true for
but
sure.
there's some statistical probabilities that demonstrate that's a fact. Like very few teams have made it to the Super Bowl.
Almost surely, but a lot of what ends up in those numbers ends up being teams that are truly bad. to go 0-2, you either have to have a very challenging schedule or more times than not, just be a not very successful team. New Orleans is probably going to be 0-2 after Sunday, and they have no shot. So, you end up with, sometimes you just, have the hard teams to play at the beginning of the season. The schedule gets much easier throughout the middle of it. But Kansas City and Baltimore both have this issue. Baltimore kind of even a more acute issue that they have a direct loss to one of the other teams that they're going to be going head to head for the number one seed. Where now not only do they need to get caught back up, they need to be a game ahead so that they don't have to split it with Buffalo. So it'll be interesting to see if Buffalo can just kind of keep it hot and not take a step back,
Yeah,
or if we get some random stumbles that allow everybody to kind of even out.
I agree. Wait, our crack research analysis is coming in my ear right now. Eric must have hired her on the fly. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Or it could be a him. I said her. Could be a him. I don't know. I didn't get their name. Named Chris. I don't know. Oh, 3 teams in the history of the NFL have won a Super Bowl after going 0-2. And one of them was my Dallas
Well,
Cowboys.
really?
Yes. In
That's
1993, when
interesting.
Emmitt Smith was out of a contract his first 2 games.
Oh, I do remember people talking about that this preseason when we were discussing Micah Parsons.
Oh, speaking of Micah Parsons, how the Packers look? We've got them at number 5.
They look like either they're world beaters or Detroit's not very good. Hard to tell which one. We're going to find out more come this Thursday.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome to see that game Thursday. I
But
can't wait.
yes, that's going to be a very fun Thursday night game to have 2 up and coming teams get to show out in Green Bay. That'll be a blast, and it'll give us a lot of information around how these other teams that they're kind of in that same echelon as how they're going to separate themselves.
Absolutely. So, hey, Brandon, last week we are in the Fall City Super Contest, and we started off like gangbusters 0-1 when the Eagles did not cover against the Cowboys, which I guaranteed. So that's a struggle for me. I'll
Yeah,
personally manage that. But after that, we still didn't do very good. We ended up 2-3. Started off a little
yeah.
slow. We want to get off fast this week, right? We want to go 5-0. Give me a couple teams that you think we're going to be playing on. I say that very loosely, guys. Brandon and I have talked about this ad nauseum. We're pretty confident as to who 3 of our teams are going to be. Disclaimer: we reserve the right to change these at any point in time based on the things that potentially happen. But give us
Line moves
our 2
mostly.
locks that we think are locks and why.
I am loving the Rams and Denver.
Yeah.
Those are probably my 2 that just jump off the page to me when I look at the Rams, even going on the road. I think that them, bringing Stafford along, making sure he can be healthy, kind of getting their footing under them, and still being able to win with margin against Houston. And then for Tennessee to look like for the first 3 quarters of that game in Denver, like they actually have a chance to win, is shrinking this line.
Yes.
I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be trying to push through the 7 right now when the super contest is locked in at 5. So that feels like a ton of value for me. And then on the Denver side, hands up, I made Miami one of my top picks last week. They failed A to C, just like as a group of men. When it comes down to it, they just did not show up
They
ready
had to
to do
hand their
their
band
job.
card over, right?
Well, yeah, it's just one of those things. Like there's ways to lose games where you go, hey, everybody fought and it worked out that you lost the game. And then there's 60 of us in this locker room, and the majority of us are not ready to do our jobs
Right.
after practicing for 2 months. And they seemed uh, unprepared to do their job. So Indy ran them out of the building. But now Denver is going to go to Indy, and Daniel Jones is going to have a different experience with Denver's defense. So I trust that Sean Payton and Bo Nix will get on the same page about how risky Bo should be with the ball this week, and that defense should put Jones in a blender. So those two really jump off the page. Where are you feeling it coming from?
Yeah, I'm down with those two. They're going to be good picks for us. I would only add one more to the list that you should take a hard look at, and I think that that's Dallas. Brandon and I always talk about making sure that you're checking not just yourself but your bets against what's happening in Vegas. Listen, these lines are moving. There's value out there. There are sharp people that are better than us, normal Joes. And while we think we're sharp, we're not, right? We don't spend 19 hours a day, trying to chase down
Right.
what's happening in the individual cities and the towns. But ultimately, there's been a significant line movement from what we received and the initial lock-in for the contest to where it's sitting at now. It's almost 3-point line movement. And Dallas over the Giants felt good to me as a Cowboys fan. Dallas 3.5, after watching how they performed against the Eagles, I could get behind that, coupled with the fact that the Giants look terrible against Washington. Now, we kind of think we know Washington's a pretty good team. We think we have a better idea as handicappers who Washington is as opposed to who the Giants are and who the Cowboys are. So I'm running my baseline off the Giants and who they are. And the baseline I'm running my baseline off the Commanders and who they are. The Commanders have Dan Quinn, have Jaden Daniels, and they put a whooping on the Giants as expected. The Cowboys took the Super Bowl champions in their own home and played them very close. So I have to give some respect to Dallas there. But when I add all of this up and put it in a blender and kick it out, it tells me that Dallas should, in theory, be able to handle by a touchdown, maybe 5 points, depending on how that falls, maybe 4 points, should be able to handle the Giants. Okay. We don't think Dallas is as good as the Eagles. We don't think Dallas is as good as the Commanders. We're not sure. We think the Giants are not as good as the Commanders. We think the Giants are not as good as the Eagles. Until we see the Eagles and the Commanders play, we don't know. But I know this is how my brain works, so I'm giving everybody an insight on my brain, right? So as a Cowboy fan, I'm going, okay, why not? Now, couple that with Vegas starting the line at 3.5 and moving it to 6.5. That tells me that there are people smarter than me and sharper than me that are on board with the thought process that the Cowboys are going to cover this line at the 3.5. Now, will they cover it at the 6.5? I don't know. Maybe not. That's why Vegas moved it, because a ton of money was coming in at 3.5. When I bet, and we talk about super contest, I want to be on the side of the sharps. That's just something that I tend to do in my bets, whether I'm in Ben Harper, whether I'm, on online app, or whether I'm doing pools. I want to be on the side of the sharps because they know a little bit more than me. In this case, this is more of a gambling bet than a team bet. I'm playing with the sharps in this particular instance. So when I say Cowboys 3.5, this is not Nate's a homer, even though he is. This is the smart play right now. You've got bonus points there. You need to play it. And so
Without a doubt, I'm right with you. Like that there's so much use in locking in these lines and then going. The reality would be if a book moved it back to 3.5,
yes,
they would just be getting full limit bets until they gave in and moved it.
Yeah.
It's just that's the reality when you're looking at it and you're saying, hey, they're now at that 5.5 live right now. Their money line is up to 225. If you move that down to 3.5, you're going that probability of the win gets that much better by being able to move that 2 points. And
So
when you
live,
already are looking at it and going, hey, I think we're on the right side of this because of the X's and O's. And then you get gifted another 2 or 3 points, depending on, where this is by close on Sunday. There's a lot of extra probability to grab and go, here, I'm just going to put that in my back pocket and hope that nothing squirrely happens.
yeah. So it's down to 5.5 now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's moved. It was up to 6.5. Came back to 5.5. I think ultimately that means that we've had buyback, right? A little bit of buyback. So
Yeah.
some of the guys have run this thing back to the Giants. There is such things as reverse buyback, and there you will hear of sharps throwing heavy money down early on a team to get the line to move so they can buy back even heavier on the other side of that coin. Now, do we know that happened? No. Is it a possibility? Possibly. If anybody's ever read those books, what was it? Billy Walters, the gambler book.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there are syndicates out there, not the St. Louis syndicate, but there are syndicates out there that will move a line, but usually they don't move them by 2.5, 3 points. They're moving them by a point or two in buying back, but just things to be cautious of. I mean, as a person who gambles on sports, as a person who watches this stuff and is a connoisseur of, all of the different things related to sports betting, you have to be aware of all those factors.
Yeah, this strikes me as somebody pushing it around the 6. That being a minor key number that once you get up around the 6, there may have been some shenanigans to push it to the other side of the 6 and then be able to grab the Giants plus 6.5. If you start seeing this come back down into the 4 range, then you have to worry that this was some sort of false move to push it all the way up, and you got to reevaluate it. But that's what Sunday mornings are for.
Yep, absolutely. So hey, it's that time of the week where we get into Survivor, and we sponsor the Sandman Pool for Survivor, sponsored by the St. Louis Syndicate. Check it out. We're hoping everybody's out there making their picks and having some success. Brandon, in future weeks, what we need to do is I'd like to be able to sit down and take a look. Eric, I need that assistant. We like to take a look at, some of the numbers of how the overall pool is going, how many are still in it, how many are still out of it.
Yeah,
Early
we'll
in
give it a
week
couple
1,
of
we can kind of
weeks.
get into that week 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah, we're breaking records over here. I think we got up over 550 people, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I mean, and a lot of people playing different ones all around, but for Sandman to get over 550, you gotta love it.
Yeah.
You gotta love it. So Brandon, here's our plays, right? We are
Yes.
endorsing these plays right now on Wednesday night when we record this. There are things that could happen, disclaimer. We may change these picks at some point in time, but for the most part, Brandon and I try to stick by our plays that we believe in. One of these teams that are up here is probably who we're going to select. We will narrow that down as we get a little closer to the date, but these are the plays overall. Last year when you spent time with us, you could see that we had our grid out of the most percentage plays and the top plays, and that one falls very significantly on the Baltimore Ravens this week. Brandon, give me a little bit about that and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think this one, when we're looking at this top play, that's just kind of looking at what's the longest odds, who is mathematically the most exact team to go the difference between what their line is and losing the game. And for this week, Baltimore being somewhere in the 12-point favorite range, that puts them the top of the heap this week.
Absolutely. Did I mention, Brandon, we went 5-0 last week in our recommendations?
Yeah,
Yeah, I just
yeah, no,
making sure
it
that I threw that out
worked
there.
out fantastic.
Yeah, so just checking. You guys stick with us. We're not going to lead you astray. We may not lead you right, but we're not going to lead you astray. So our safe play this week is going to be Buffalo, right? Coming in, they're playing the Jets. Now we call it a safe play because mathematically they're the next best favorite, the next best odds on our overall grid that we use to forecast out what we're doing. That being said, I always throw caution to the wind when you're playing interdivision rivals. It feels safe to play Buffalo after what they just did, but you even made the point earlier when we were talking about this that Buffalo, just coming off an emotional win against Baltimore, how is that going to look? Um, the Jets taking a tough one, are they going to be ready to play? Are they going to, kind of have this chip on their shoulder like we shouldn't have lost? What are the different things that they're feeling to potentially cause this to be a Buffalo loss? In reality, it's our safe play because I just don't see how Buffalo loses this game. Do you see any way how Buffalo loses this game?
Not really, and not only that, but the it being safe, but you have to look out into the future and go, the only way to get to a win in Survivor is to outlast everybody. So when you look at Buffalo and you say, okay, they're at they're a 6.5 point favorite, they're on the road, the very high probability of this working out well. But if you just look to the next 2 weeks, they have even better matchups. And then there's a handful, farther down the road that their, projections as of today are even higher than what they are this week. So they're safe, but there is a higher reward down the line to still have them available to you when you come to some of those deeper weeks where the plays are tighter.
And that's an outstanding point, and I think that that falls for both our safe play and our top play this week. So our next play is our risk reward play, and this is going to be scary for some folks, but once you understand why, heart palpitations. I'm considering playing the Cowboys. For me, it's a toss up between the Cowboys and I still have the Arizona Cardinals available. Um, to me, the reward of having Baltimore and Buffalo later is very appealing to me. So playing the Cowboys or the Arizona Cardinals right now is probably where I'm leaning in my pools. That being said, the Cowboys are a great risk reward team because if you take a look at our percentages, this is the only week of an 18-week season they're above 60% success rate opportunity. So the rest of it, they're in the 40s and the 50s. If you guys recall our charts, show us green when we're, a top play team, and they're white or gray when they're, no plays. The Cowboys are only green in this entire chart this week. So when we talk about risk reward, this is really what we're talking about. The Cowboys, if you're going to use them in an 18-week season, this is probably it. The very week 18, they play the Giants, but it's at New York. This week, they're playing the Giants at home. They're fully healthy. This is probably your best shot at getting a win out of the Cowboys. So to play them, it's risky because they are the Cowboys and they're a little bit not as secure as a team like Baltimore or Buffalo. Might make you a little nervous, but ultimately at the end of the day, if you can get a win here, that's good. Now those circuit guys might be saving them for like Thanksgiving weekend or something like that, but we don't have that problem in our pools.
Yeah, no, this is a great opportunity, especially if you're the kind of person that plays multiple entries in our contest or any of the contests out there where you want to at some point deviate and go, I'm going to spread the picks around a little bit. This is a great one to get aggressive with and go, now's the time. I think they can do it and take the opportunity as it's presenting itself.
Absolutely. So if you recall, our no play is a team that's probably in our top percentages, but they're just it's a little too risky. We need to stay away from them. And this week's going to be a little bit of a different one for us. We're saying no play to the entire NFC North. Brandon, why do we stay away from an entire division?
I think that, unfortunately, the games that we watched get played week 1 leave an opening to go, I don't know exactly how all these people stack up with the way that we shifted coordinators around between the teams. So, like we were saying, hey, Green Bay, they beat up on Detroit. Is Detroit still pretty good and Green Bay is one of the top teams now? Or is Detroit a middling team and Green Bay is just better than they are? And then the Bears, they start off, they have a couple of good drives, and then it dries up, and you go, what exactly is going on here with them now going up to Detroit and Ben Johnson going back to his old team 2 weeks into the season? What are they capable of doing? Is Detroit going to just run away with the game? Or are they closer than this 6 point would offer up there? And then, Minnesota, they came back, won that game. All of a sudden, McCarthy looks like, a strong quarterback that understands what's going on. But they've got Atlanta coming up there who lost on a missed field goal and looked like they were kind of warming up as the game went along. So, we kind of agreed that just across the board, you're looking at least 3 of these 4 teams being short favorites and going, until you get a little more information, you're taking a lot of risk and not getting the requisite reward back from it.
Yeah. That outstanding analysis. I couldn't agree more. Packers are clear no play against Washington this week. You just don't know which way that's going. Detroit and Chicago. I mean, that could be a coin flip depending on which team shows up in Chicago or Detroit. And then Minnesota, we're still trying to figure it out with the young quarterback. And there's going to be plenty of opportunities to take those teams later against. That's the other piece of this, right? Is the forward-looking motion. There's other opportunities to play them against teams that are not as challenging. And we always try to say stay out of interdivision play a little bit. Sometimes you can't
Yeah.
help it. The risk reward plays the Cowboys, the Giants, the safe plays the Bills, the Jets. It just happens sometimes, and you gotta manage that situation when it comes up. But in this instance, no play on those guys. Now, the last one, we always like to have fun with this one. This is the team that's playing the Saints because we kind of agree that the Saints are bad. We do want to throw a little caution to the wind on this one, though. San Francisco came out of their game banged up, right? We lost Kittle. We have question marks around Purdy. And so the team playing New Orleans is San Francisco, but we're going to take them with a grain of salt. We still think they're going to be better than New Orleans regardless, but
Yeah.
it's a grain of salt call. I definitely would not recommend you hinging your entire, $500 L gigantic survivor pool play on it, or going to Circa and throwing San Francisco out there saying this is a no brainer. But if you feel so inclined, they are playing New Orleans, and we feel like that's a good move.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a little needlessly elaborate for week 2. Um, you know, as we get down the road, um, I trust that New Orleans is going to play as projected, and they will be the team that's out there that can be sniped later in the season. But for the time being, there's so many other plays. Don't don't spend your Sunday stressed out about this when you can just tackle one of these other guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hey, everybody, thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed the listen. Check out Sandman Sports. I'm Nate. He's Brandon. We're the St. Louis Syndicate. Good luck on your bets this week, guys.
Cheers.